All right, the record shall show that the jury is seated in the courtroom. Ms. Ramos, I understand you are the jury foreperson,
Yes, Your Honor.
and we have received a message from the jury that the jury has reached a verdict in this case. Is that so now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this verdict a unanimous one? That is, one that is agreed upon by all members of the jury?
Yes.
And do any of the jurors disagree with your foreperson's representation? Says it is unanimous. No disagreement. It does indeed appear to be unanimous. I'm going to ask you, please pass the documents to the bailiff. You may be seated, and the court will publish this verdict. Thank you. In cause number 23-41503, the state of Texas versus Horatio Trevino. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the offense of indecency with charged in the indictment. This is signed by the foreperson. The verdict is received by the court. It is made a part of the record for all purposes. You may be seated. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time, I have received and accepted your verdict finding the defendant guilty of the offense of indecency with as charged in this indictment. That brings us to a close of phase one of this bifurcated two-part trial. We are going to now proceed with the punishment phase of the trial. And once again, let me repeat, you are under the same instructions that have been given to you throughout this trial up to this point, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what we're going to do is break for lunch. It's 11:45. I'm going to ask you to return back at 1:15. And again, if you go out to eat and if you're, remember, don't talk about this case. We're not through with it. We still have this second phase to deal with, the punishment phase of this trial. And if you're with somebody who's a fellow juror, talk about the weather, anything else, but not this case. All right. And we'll see you back at 1:15. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, including the alternates. This is difficult for everybody. I know people in the audience are showing emotion. That's not allowed. If you can't stay composed, you're going to have to exit, please, because the jury picks up on that, and it can only be expected for the court to perceive as a disruption where the jury is losing its focus. It's seeing people who may be upset, and then it could be also used as an attempt to try to show some kind of message to the jury, and we don't want that. Yeah, and it's difficult. No, I've done this for a long time, and emotion is shown. But please keep your composure. If you can't, you're going to have to be asked to leave. Please, thank you very much. Your bond, sir, is revoked. You will be taken into custody immediately. That is normal and customary when someone is found guilty of a felony offense, and we will see what happens here through this punishment phase. But at this time, your bond is revoked. You will be in custody, and of course, you'll be able to speak with your lawyer. You'll be kept here, and your lawyer will have access to you to discuss further proceedings that we're going to be dealing with in this punishment phase. Is there anything else we need to bring up before we come back? Again at 1:15, ladies and gentlemen, we'll pick up the punishment phase. And the record shall show that the jury is seated in the courtroom. Ms. Ramos, as foreperson of the jury, we have received a message on behalf of the jury from you that the jury has reached a verdict in this punishment phase of this trial for the second-degree felony of indecency with it. Is that true, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this verdict a unanimous one? That is, one that is agreed upon by all members of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Or any of the jurors disagreeing with your foreperson's representations? No disagreement is indicated. It does indeed appear to be a unanimous decision in this punishment phase. Please pass the documents as before to the bailiff. You may be seated. Thank you, ma'am. The court will review for proper forms and publish the verdict. Whatever this verdict is, please, no outbursts. That would be a contempt matter. And no, I do not want to punish anybody for interrupting the proper decorum of this courtroom. In cause number 23-41503, in the case of the state of Texas versus Horatio Trevino, we, the jury, assess the defendant's punishment at confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice prison for a term of 10 years. That is the verdict of this jury. It is signed by the jury foreperson. It is received, and it is made a part of the record for all purposes. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, your duty as jurors is complete. At the beginning of this trial, I placed each of you under a number of instructions. At this time, I am releasing you from these instructions which had previously been given to you. However, one final additional instruction. Once you are discharged, you are released from your oaths of secrecy. You will be free to discuss this case and your deliberations with anyone. And alternatively, you are also free to refuse to discuss this case, and you have every right to maintain your silence unless otherwise ordered to do so by me. In a little bit of time, the attorneys will be released, and they always like to get any input and feedback from jurors if you're willing to stand by outside and wait for them. That's always helpful to lawyers. But you don't have to wait. You can move on with your life. And I want to again express our profound thanks for your time and your energy. It's important that people come forward for jury service. The Constitution, what this flag stands for, we the people of the United States, is what this Constitution begins with. We the people, all of us. At times, we are part of the process. We make decisions, important decisions, whether it's being a juror or voting for your public officials. It's vital because this is self-governance. There is a good reason why we lead all the other nations on this planet as the example of freedom and fairness. So I want to thank you for honoring your duty. I hope to have the honor to work with you in the future. Until then, may God continue to bless Jefferson County and her citizens, and you are free to go. Thank you very much.
In the end of this case, this wasn't just about lowering a bond. It was about trust, responsibility, and a pattern of behavior the court couldn't ignore. When a defendant repeatedly violates conditions and carries a history this serious, judges aren't just weighing sympathy. They're protecting public safety. The denial sends a clear message. Accountability matters more than promises. Even with family support, the court needs proof that rules will actually be followed. So here's the real question. Should past actions outweigh a second chance? Or is there a point where the risk simply becomes too great to ignore?